The only shops that are opened are grocery shops and the pharmacies. But even there, they restrict the number of people going inside the shop. And they also make sure that you still keep the distance of about a 1.5 meters to 2 meters apart. So it means there are long queues outside of people who are waiting to go inside the shops and inside the pharmacy. So there are restrictions so that they are avoiding the concentration of a lot of people in shops and in the pharmacies.
Italy continues to be under a dramatic total lockdown as cases of COVID-19 continue to increase. Recorded cases have surpassed 30,000 and the number of deaths is now above 2,500. News 24 spoke to Titi Nxumalo, South Africa's Consul General to Milan, about the lockdown and whether citizens have any indication about when the restrictions will be lifted.
We don't know when it will come to an end, actually, because before the total lockdown, there was like a partial one that they were saying that up to the 3rd of April. But then the president later on announced this new decree, and they haven't said till when. I think they will just be monitoring the situation and see if the number of people infected and the number of deaths is going down, and if they see that they have contained it, probably that is when they will sort of like come with new announcement. But at the moment, the numbers are still going up.
We also spoke to Marc Davis, a South African who's been living and working in the UK for more than 3 years. In the wake of the outbreak, he's decided to limit his travels and now finds himself back in South Africa.
I'm currently in South Africa right now. I had come a week ago, or 2 weeks ago rather, to be with family for a few days and was meant to go back. But I made the decision a few days ago that it would probably not be a wise decision to travel back now. For example, my colleagues abroad are all working from home, so my office is virtually closed anyway. I think I'd much prefer to face the brunt of this virus here in South Africa with my family rather than in what is a very small flat in London, or in buildings, you know, where there are many people living in much closer proximity to one another. So I think on balance, you know, I'm fortunate and privileged enough to be able to stick around in SA for now. And that's where we are. I have no idea when I'm going back. We'll see how things go. I think, you know, for the time being, it's important for us to just not travel if it's not essential. And I think I'm following that advice, putting my money where my mouth is.
Before Marc left the UK, people were becoming more cautious and starting to prep for the worst.
For the most part, the UK, I would say, has not experienced the same dramatic shifts in day-to-day life as many other countries. It's certainly nowhere near anything like Italy, for example. However, there have been some striking trends. So one that is immediately apparent is changes in public transport passenger numbers. I think that they have dropped for sure. That's now backed up by the numbers as well. Transport for London reported a 19% drop in the number of people on the London Underground last week. So I do think this is an indication that people are being more cautious, or at least feeling a little bit more nervous about sharing public spaces like the tube or potentially buses and that kind of thing. So there are fewer people on public transport. The other thing that I think is immediately apparent is the increase in panic buying of household goods. So that can be, you know, staples from toilet paper and food items to a range of other things. I don't think it's necessarily as severe as we've seen in other places like Hong Kong, for example, but you are seeing that sort of collective hysteria in many of the grocers around London or in certain parts of London. A personal anecdote from my area, one of the major suburban grocers near my house in London has had very long queues and many anxious buyers who are clearing shelves very quickly, even though you know, it seems that there are not currently blockages in supply chains. And in fact, we've heard industry representatives say that there are not blockages in supply chains. So the irony of this is that the empty shelves are a bit of a self-inflicted crisis that needn't be the case if it weren't for this collective hysteria that results in panic buying. But I think those are the two main things that we're seeing in major cities like London for the moment. I think unlike many other countries, the UK government's approach has so far been subject to a lot of criticism, actually, especially from some in the scientific communities, some members of parliament, lawmakers have certainly been calling for much more drastic measures. The UK hasn't been shutting schools or enacting widespread lockdowns like many other countries, including South Africa. I do think that this could change soon, especially as the UK's current approach, which hasn't been entirely clear, although many people have been talking about the herd immunity approach, even though that hasn't been government's official position. But I do think that there might be a shift in gears from today, or at least this week in the UK, and we'll probably be seeing some more drastic measures put in place soon. At least that is my hypothesis. There are many surprises in UK politics, as there are in SA politics.
The UK has over 1,000 people who have been diagnosed, and more than 50 people have died. People displaying any symptoms have been told to self-isolate for 14 days. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has since told British people to avoid pubs, clubs, encouraged people to avoid mass gatherings, and work from home. This has been a News 24 production. I'm Sheldon Moraes, and our producer was Noktula Manyati. Special thanks to Azara Karim for additional reporting.